Hey stranger, tonight we're reading stories from the Let's Not Meet subreddit, where people share true creepy run-ins with strangers who feel just a little too interested. If you're ready, let's get into it. Hi everyone, I want to share something that happened a little over a year ago. Please be careful about meeting strangers from online. I am a 24-year-old woman and I moved across the country for the first time. I did not know anyone and my job is not great for meeting new people, so I downloaded Bumble BFF to try to make friends in my area. I chatted with a few girls and the first meetup I went to went amazingly well. That gave me confidence, so I decided to try again. I matched with a girl I will call Amber. Amber is a 22-year-old woman. Amber and I talked on Bumble BFF for a few days, and then we agreed to meet for brunch. We met at a coffee shop. The moment she walked up, I noticed she did not look like her photos. It was not a dramatic difference, but it was enough to notice. Her photos looked like they could have been a sister or cousin, or maybe she was just really good at taking pictures. Since this was not a date, I tried not to care, but it was still my first red flag. Within minutes, she started trauma dumping. She talked non-stop, and I could barely get a word in. During the conversation, she mentioned she did not drive, and she also had 2 young children. I sat there for a while, trying to think of a polite way to leave, but because she said she did not drive, I felt guilty about just walking away and leaving her stranded. Eventually, I told her I needed to use the restroom, and then I had to continue with my day. She offered to walk with me. For context, this coffee shop was in an outdoor outlet mall, and the restroom was far away. We had to walk all the way across the mall to reach it. While I was in a bathroom stall, I heard a child yell, "Mommy!" When I opened the stall door, Amber was suddenly holding a toddler. I honestly thought, where did this child just come from? She looked surprised too, like she had not expected it either. She introduced the toddler. The toddler then hissed at me. Kids are weird sometimes, but it added to the strange feeling. I washed my hands and walked out. Outside the restroom, there was a man with a stroller. Amber came out and introduced him as her boyfriend. He was unfriendly. Amber pressured me to say hello to the baby in the stroller. I hesitated, but I pulled the stroller cover down and said hello. The baby immediately started crying. I felt extremely uncomfortable. I thanked Amber for meeting me, and I watched her and her boyfriend walk off to their car. Here is what bothered me. Amber told me she did not drive, so I assumed her boyfriend drove her, but she never mentioned he was also at the mall the whole time, waiting for us to finish, even though we had been together for hours. She also never explained how he randomly showed up at the same restroom at the exact moment we did. I figured maybe he had her location on her phone, or maybe she texted him that brunch was ending. But I never even saw her on her phone. After they got into the car, I started walking back across the mall toward my own car. On the way, I stopped to get a pretzel. While I was in line, a close friend called me. I told my friend about the weird meetup, especially how the boyfriend appeared out of nowhere. I assumed that was the end of it. The worker told me it would be a few minutes, so I sat down. As I sat down, I looked up and saw Amber's boyfriend standing in line behind me. I was horrified and embarrassed. I did not plan on seeing Amber again, but I never wanted to be cruel or hurt someone's feelings. Still, between feeling confused and worried, I decided to leave without getting my pretzel. I started walking toward my car. I looked behind me, and Amber's boyfriend was deliberately following me. My mind was racing. If he had been waiting the whole time, why had he not gotten food earlier? How did he know which part of the mall I was in? Why was he following me? Did he overhear my phone call and want to confront me? Every time I looked back, he was still there. At that point, I started running through the mall. I told my friend on the phone, "If I do not call you back in 5 minutes, call my spouse and the police." I finally got to my car, and I could see him storming through the parking lot after me. I drove away as fast as I could. My heart was pounding. When I was about halfway home, I called my friend again and told her I was okay. When I got home, I told my spouse everything. I deleted my Bumble BFF account and blocked Amber on Snapchat, which was the only other social media account I had added her on. A day later, she found me on Instagram, even though I never gave her my Instagram. She messaged me saying, "Hey, girly, I had a great time at brunch. We should all hang out again soon." I blocked her on Instagram too. Thank God I've not heard from her since. I do not know what their intentions were, and I truly do not want to find out. This has been a wild ride, but as far as I know, this guy has not come back for about 8 months. He is apparently sneaky, so take that with a grain of salt, but I think I am in the clear. Here is what happened. About 2 years ago, my roommate and I moved into a rental house in a mostly safe city. We are both 20-year-old women. The house is nice, rent is expensive, and the landlords forget we exist. Perfect. A few months later, a sweet family moved in nearby. A mom, a dad who is a police officer in the next city over, and 2 young kids. This matters later. Our house has a partially finished basement. It is mostly underground, has outside access only, and has a couple of windows. It is partially finished because the owner told me a tree fell on the house years ago, and the foundation was built around it. That left a huge hole in the back of the basement, basically a giant crawl space. The basement is creepy. There is graffiti, random holes in the walls, and it has a general horror movie vibe. We never stored anything valuable down there. Just a few Christmas decorations and an old recliner I needed to get rid of. Because of that, we never felt the need to lock it. Down there is our hot water heater, and also a random empty hot water heater that is not attached to anything. The landlord said it has just always been there. Another important detail. Our yard is fenced. I have a dog who goes in and out through a doggy door while we are at work all day. He is a mini Australian shepherd. He is not a threat to anyone and trusts absolutely everyone. He might bark at first, but if you speak kindly, he would basically give you the keys to my life. In the yard, there is an empty chicken coop that belonged to the previous owner of the house, not my current landlord. It was left behind from before. One day, a few months into living there, I got home from work and my neighbor, the police officer, walked up to me. He told me a man in a red truck pulled into the driveway and started trying to get into our backyard. My neighbor knew it was not me, my roommate, or my boyfriend, so he asked the man what he was doing. The man said he wanted to look at the serial number on the hot water heater in my basement. That made no sense. My neighbor told him to leave and come back when one of us was home. Now, my landlord drives a red truck, so at first I thought it might have been him, and he just forgot to tell me he was coming. I messaged my landlord. It was not my landlord. After some back and forth between me, the landlord, and my neighbor, we figured out the man was the owner of the house before my landlord bought it. I will call him Jim. My landlord said he would contact Jim to figure out what he needed and why he was trying to access the basement. My landlord could not reach Jim. Jim did not come back for a few days, until one day while I was at work, my doorbell camera alerted me. I checked it, and there were 2 detectives from a different state knocking at my door. They were looking for Jim. Why? Because Jim had warrants related to stolen guns and other illegal substances, and my house was an address they had on file. I told them everything that had happened. They immediately suspected Jim had hidden something in our basement and was trying to sneak back to retrieve it. They told me to put a lock on the basement door because nobody knew how long he might have been crawling around down there before my neighbor noticed him. While the detectives worked on coordinating with local officers to search the property, Jim showed up 2 more times. First, he came to my door again and rang the doorbell and banged on the door. The camera battery was almost dead and did not alert me until later, but the video was enough to see his face and the red truck behind him. Second, Jim contacted my landlord and claimed he was trying to get the chicken coop out of our backyard. That was not what he told my neighbor originally. Not long after that, I came home and noticed the chicken coop door had been open and rifled through. I know my mini Australian shepherd did not do that. The detectives eventually searched the basement, the yard, and the crawl space. They found nothing. My landlord came and removed the chicken coop. We thought, okay, if there is nothing hidden here, maybe it is over. It was not over. We live in Tornado Alley, so we get nasty weather. One morning after a storm, my roommate and I were walking outside with the dog. My roommate looked at the house and asked, "Has that basement window always been busted in?" It had not. I unlocked the basement and went inside, furious. The basement had clearly been disturbed. Items were moved around, tubs opened, decorations shifted, and the empty hot water heater was moved too. By this point, multiple people had searched the basement because we assumed there was something hidden down there. But apparently, Jim could hide things very well. I called the local police. A local officer showed up, looked at the busted basement window and told me the wind from the storm did it. He put the window back and left. He ignored the basement being disturbed and ignored that we already had a history of someone breaking in. A few months later, we had an actual tornado and a tree fell into the yard. The windows were fine. So, no, the wind did not break into my basement. After that, my roommate and I came to a few conclusions. First, he cannot get into the main house unless he squeezes through the tiny doggy door. At that point, I would almost respect the effort. Also, he does not seem interested in the house, only in the basement. Second, local police were not helpful, so we did not want to waste energy creating constant chaos. Third, he probably already got what he needed the last time, and hopefully he would go hide his stuff somewhere else. Fourth, we do not keep anything valuable in the basement. If he wants my grandmother's old Christmas ornaments, he can have them. Fifth, he has not tried to take the dog. Either the dog likes him and would not leave him alone, or Jim is jumping the fence and dealing with my dog's endless barking and herding attempts. Either way, Jim is not having a peaceful time. So, yes, a guy was breaking into our basement, and the last time we asked for help, it went nowhere. Jim, please stop stashing your scary things in my basement. I am just a girl. You clearly do not want to hurt us, so just do not go into the house and do not take my dog. Last night, I was doing my own thing when the power suddenly went out. This is not unusual where we live. It happens sometimes because we are in a small town in Mexico. Since there was nothing else to do, I went to sleep. At the same time, my mom was upstairs lying on a hammock and using her phone. We have puppies, and they usually follow anyone who moves around. But that night, they eventually settled down. My mom was on a call with someone. At one point, the person on the phone asked her if she was alone. She said yes. Later, she told me she thought he meant just her, not including her kids, me and my sister. After the call, she went downstairs, did the dishes, and came to bed. All of us sleep in the same room because the other rooms are currently used for dogs. Between 1 and 1:30 in the morning, I woke up to knocking outside and someone whistling. I thought about moving, but my mum whispered very seriously, "Do not move." So I stayed completely still. This detail matters. My bed is a string bed that makes a lot of noise if you move even a little. There was no power, no air conditioning, and it was hot. I barely moved because I was terrified of making noise. The man outside walked into our property. He knocked on 2 doors, knocked on the front window, and even tried to open the window. Our doors are loud and squeaky, so it was obvious he was trying not to make noise or draw attention. Eventually, he stopped and left quietly. What made it even worse was my mum's reaction afterward. My sister and I were scared and could not sleep properly. My mum, however, went right back to sleep and was snoring like nothing happened. When my sister asked what was going on, my mom lied and said it was probably the dogs trying to get in, even though there was no barking and the dogs were most likely asleep upstairs. The next day, my mom finally told me the truth. The same man who asked her if she was alone was the one who came to our house. My mom said she plans to tell him that if he does it again, she will report him to the police. But we live in a very small town with barely any police presence and no clear addresses. I am frustrated. Someone tried to enter our home in the middle of the night, and my mom downplayed it and lied instead of prioritizing safety. I do not know what to do next. Should I tell my stepfather? He lives in another country and only speaks Spanish, but I feel like he should know. This happened last night, almost 24 hours ago, and I cannot stop thinking about it. I am a 26-year-old woman and I wear a hijab. I was alone in an all-night fast food restaurant in a small town, about half an hour outside my city, for about an hour and a half. I went into town with my partner because we wanted to enjoy the drive there and back together, but he had something to do that I did not join him for, so I spent that time alone, journaling and nursing a hot drink in a booth. For extra context, I am white, but I can look ethnically ambiguous, especially with a veil. I was wearing a hijab in a town with 8 churches and a population of about 1,800. I was not particularly worried at first, but it matters. It was already dark when we arrived at about 6:30 in the evening. At one point, a car pulled into the parking spot right next to my booth's window. I had been there for around an hour and was deeply focused on writing. The car was angled toward me and was running with its headlights on. I did not think much of it until it flashed its high beams at me after several minutes. I glanced up, assuming maybe my partner was outside. It was not his car, so I went back to writing. Now, I think the flashing was a test to see if I was paying attention to my surroundings. Later, I noticed a man standing between my booth and the counter, like someone waiting for their order, but I never saw him receive any food or drink. After I finished a paragraph, I looked up and he was staring at me. Not a casual glance, a hostile, fixed stare. His face was mostly emotionless, but the energy felt angry. He turned around. I kept writing because I knew my partner would be coming soon, but the man stayed. From the corner of my eye, I could see him facing me again. Then he moved to the other side of the restaurant, closer to my blind spot. There was a partition in the dining area, so he positioned himself where he could still watch me without being directly in front of me. At this point, he was closer to the doors than the counter, sort of behind where I was sitting. I could still see him in my peripheral vision. When I started packing my things, he slowly moved into the vestibule between the outer doors and inner doors. I threw my trash away and returned to my booth. I checked my phone. When I stood up again, he was still there, with his back toward me but his head turned, watching me. I grabbed my coat and purse. He stepped outside and stood right in front of the doors, blocking one door and leaving only a narrow path past him. To leave, I would have had to get very close to him. Instead, I went toward the back of the restaurant and into the bathroom. I swear I saw him turn his head to track me. My partner texted me that he had arrived. I texted back that I would be right out and that I was just washing up. When I left the bathroom, the man was back inside, facing the doors like he was waiting for someone. I walked past him into the vestibule. He was not subtle about staring. I fumbled with the exterior doors for a moment and tried the wrong one first. Normally that would be embarrassing, but I did not care. I walked past the car that had flashed its high beams, what I assume was his car, and got to my partner's car. They were parked with one empty spot between them. My partner had backed into his parking spot, so from inside the restaurant, the man could not clearly see who was driving. He could only see me get into someone else's car, and he watched closely. He watched me open the front door, greet my partner, then open the back door and toss my purse and coat into the back seat. For the first time, I looked directly at him while getting in. He was looking directly at me. We pulled out onto the highway and drove past the restaurant. He was still staring in our direction. A minute later, a car caught up to us and followed closely. Close enough that if the driver had anywhere to go, they would have simply passed us instead of tailing. Then the car turned off soon after we left town. My best guess is that he flashed his high beams to test my awareness, then waited to see if I would leave alone. If my partner had not been waiting right there, it would have been easy for that man to intercept me because his car was right by the restaurant door. I am grateful I did not leave alone. Let us not meet, dude. I do not know what to do. I am honestly still terrified, and part of me wants to believe I imagined it. I am an 18-year-old woman. I live at home with my 2 parents and my 2-year-old daughter. I am on winter break from college and picking up extra shifts. My mum is off work and willing to watch my daughter so I can work more and save money. This matters because for the last few days, I have not been able to fall asleep until around midnight or 1 in the morning because my daughter stays awake late. Then she does not wake up until 9 in the morning and I have to get ready for an 8-hour shift. At the time this happened, it was 10:42 at night. I had already texted my boyfriend and I did not want to wake my parents over nothing. I was on my phone watching TikTok while my daughter played in front of me with one of her Christmas gifts. Suddenly, I heard the back door slam shut. Right after that, I heard what sounded like running water. I got up. The back door was unlocked, the outside door was wide open, and the kitchen sink was running. Our house has a basement. The basement stairs are in a small room by the kitchen, so it is basically 2 back doors back there. I was the last person in the kitchen. The water had been off. I had let the dogs in earlier, and both doors were shut because cold air comes through the glass door. We have cats, but none were in the kitchen. Also, the living room where I was sitting is attached to the kitchen, but there is a 3-foot-tall wooden gate blocking access, so my daughter cannot get into things like pet food, water bowls, trash, litter boxes, or the stove. She could not have done this. I locked all the doors and windows on the 1st and 2nd floor. Upstairs, we only have 2 windows that can be unlocked. While double-checking, I saw a figure moving in the alley behind our garage. Our garage has motion-activated lights. The lights went off as soon as I stepped into the kitchen, which makes me think that if someone had been inside the garage, they would have triggered the lights earlier. I am terrified. I do not want to wake my dad if no one is there, and I sound crazy. I want this to be coincidences. The motion lights go off for cats, rabbits, and even the neighbor's dog, but the sink was running and the door I had shut was open. We have suspected frogging, meaning someone secretly living in the house, because sometimes windows are open for no reason, doors are unlocked, or random things appear. For example, men's pants appeared that were slightly bigger than my size. They were not mine, and they were far too small to be my dad's. I am 5'4", and my dad is over 6 feet tall. I am lost. So whoever came into my house and turned on the faucet, of all things, let us not meet. I told myself that next time I would wake my dad and say, I think there is an intruder. I just hoped people could reassure me I was imagining it. Update. First, sorry if the update is messy. I was terrified and it was my first post. 1. The house is very old, built in the 1860s, so groans happen, but this was not a groan. 2. The door that slammed is a heavy metal door, and it sounds nothing like the wooden doors in the house. 3. Yes, the television was on, but the slam sound was distinct. I know I should have woken up my parents or called the police immediately, but I was paranoid and thought the person would be gone quickly. From the back door, it is only about 10 steps to reach the alley. Foot traffic is common here because there is a drug problem and people use alleys to avoid police, since police rarely drive down them. Extra context about the frogging suspicion. We often hear what sounds like footsteps when home alone, and our cats and dogs cannot go upstairs because of a baby gate. In the summer, someone kept opening the basement door. It was a weird door with a broken lock that took effort to open and close, and my dad was remodeling, so he always shut it to protect the dogs from nails. About twice a week, he would come home to find it open, so he built a new door with a lock, and only he has the key. He also changed the back door lock, and only he has that key too. Another time, my mom asked if I had snuck out, because my dad came home and saw one of the window screens was missing and sitting on the roof. He found the window unlocked, and there was white dust that showed handprints coming in. The worst part was that it was my daughter's room. He put the screen back and nailed the window shut. I just know it cannot be opened. Now, for the big part of the update. About 3 minutes after posting, and about 8 minutes after the actual event, I realized I was being stupid. If it was just me, I might not care, but my daughter changed my life and I would do anything to protect her. While I was filling her milk cup, preparing to wake my dad, I heard faint tapping outside on the glass door. Then I heard a loud bang. I threw the cup, ran, tripped on the gate, grabbed my daughter, and ran into my parents' room yelling, "There is someone outside." My dad woke up, grabbed his gun, and checked outside while my mum called the police. The police did a small check and said they had no proof someone was there, but I do not think I imagined it. I know what I heard. After they left, I pushed a desk in front of my bedroom door because I do not have a lock. My daughter slept in my room. Further update. Today was the day of a funeral in town. The family still could not get the body because it is part of a murder trial. We paid respects and left. While leaving, I saw someone from behind who resembled my ex, so I drove away quickly. I know that is not a dramatic update, but I said I would mention it. Someone sent me a link to buy cameras. They should arrive next Thursday. The morning after the incident, I retold my mum what happened and she looked horrified. We tried slamming the back door and could not get it to sound like what I heard. Then we tried slamming our heavy wooden gate, and from inside it sounded almost exactly like the slam I heard. That makes me think someone may have been in the backyard at least. My mum also noticed the basement light had been on. The basement door stays locked, but there is a small hole in the bathroom floor you can use to see into the basement area. The light is off now, and it can only be turned on if someone is actually down there. So if it turns on again, I will check the cameras. I am trying to keep this gentle and not too detailed. I have 2 stories I wish I could forget, but they will probably never leave me. I'm almost 30 and I need to get this off my chest. I was a 16-year-old girl at the time. I sometimes worked with a family member to earn pocket money. During breaks, I would sneak outside to smoke a cigarette. Employees from a neighboring business would come out at the same time. There was a man around 45 who often smoked when I did. We made small talk about customers, the weather, and mall gossip. Nothing special. One day he told me he had just moved near my home. He knew where my family lived because he was on good terms with them. He said he was throwing a housewarming party and had invited everyone from both workplaces. He told me to come. At that age, I was incredibly naive. I felt lonely, I had never had a boyfriend, and my life felt boring. Any excuse to escape home felt good, so I went. I rang the doorbell. He opened, let me in, and immediately locked the door behind me. Then he put the key into his underwear. I looked around and quickly realized something was wrong. There was no one else there. I asked where everyone was. He said they had already come earlier and left. I reminded him he told me the party started at 2 in the afternoon. He mumbled something about them coming early. I noticed he was tipsy. We talked for a few minutes and he offered to show me the house. The house was actually nice. When we reached the bedroom, he said, "Here is your room. Look, you even have a big walk-in closet just for you. I can make more space if you need." In my head, I was panicking. I laughed nervously and tried to play it off like, "Yeah, sure, you are funny." We went back to the living room and sat down, and then he jumped on me and tried to force himself on me. He groped me, kissed me, and started taking off his clothes. I tried to push him away. Thankfully, he was more drunk than I realized. One hard kick knocked him to the floor. He sat there, confused, and said, "I do not understand. You do not want to. All those times you smiled at me, waved hello, talked to me while smoking, laughed at my jokes." I felt pure disgust. I told him I appreciated talking at work, but that was it. We were just co-workers. I kept it vague because I was afraid he would get angry. That is when he completely lost it. He started saying my name and comparing me to his ex-wife. He claimed his ex-wife had the same name as me and the same beauty mark, the same mixed origins, the same face, hair, and body. He said I was like her twin, but better. He talked about buying the house and planning a future with me and children. That is when I knew I was in real danger. I felt like I was watching myself die every time his heavy body leaned toward me. He was twice my size, drunk, unstable, and threatening. At one point, he went to the bathroom. With how much alcohol he had, he was in there for around 10 minutes. While he was gone, I called one of my co-workers, the man responsible for me at work. I explained everything and begged him to come get me. He was not in town. He struggled to believe his friend could do something like this. He told me to try to leave by force, and if I could not, he would drive back from where he was and come get me. My mind was racing. He told me to stay calm and call the police, but I had to hang up because the man came back. You might wonder why I did not call my parents. It is simple. They would have blamed me and punished me. They were the kind of parents who hit me for much less. I wanted to avoid that. I tried again to say I needed to leave. He said, "No, you're not going back. We're going to have so much fun." I froze. I dissociated. I felt numb. He kept trying. Each time I distracted him, changed the subject, anything. I was in survival mode. I told myself my only chance was to play along until I found a way out. Late in the evening, after being trapped there from 2 in the afternoon until around 10 at night, I pretended I needed clothes and medication. He had planned everything, including old clothes from his ex-wife, my so-called twin. He was exhausted from alcohol and weed and was dozing on the couch. I told him I needed a very specific medication and that I would go get it and come right back. A quick round trip. He made me promise. He kissed me and I forced myself to act sweet because I thought it might save my life. He opened the door and told me if I was not back by midnight, he would call my mother's boss, get her fired, lie about a situation, and then hurt my mum. He watched me until I turned the corner. I walked away and broke down crying. Then, out of nowhere, someone appeared on a bike. He looked like a tough guy from the neighborhood. He said, "Hey, got a cigarette?" I was shaking and crying, but I handed him one. He asked what was wrong. I told him everything, barely able to speak. I said I was scared that if I did not go back, my mom would be harmed. He asked me to show him the house. I did not want to go back, but he convinced me I would be safe with him nearby, so I walked with him and pointed out the house. He said, "All right, I have seen him before. You go home, you sleep, you forget this story. I will text you tomorrow morning." I went home, terrified and traumatized, and eventually fell asleep shaking. The next morning around 8, I got a message from him saying everything was fine and he hoped I slept well. I asked what happened. He replied with a simple wink. After that, the predator never bothered me again. A co-worker later told me, "Did you hear what happened to him? He just moved in and already moved out in 2 days. Apparently, someone broke into his place at night and destroyed everything. They even beat him so badly he lost his front teeth. He could barely talk when he came to pick up his things at work. I was disgusted by him, but grateful to the man on the bike. I never saw him again. Real saviors exist. And yes, later I filed a complaint about the predator, but I never heard anything back. Let us never meet again."